Good evening. We all know exactly how bad this economy is by now, but perhaps the most understandable way to explain just how many Americans are out of work is to put it this way. It's now equal to the entire population of the state of Pennsylvania. 12.5 million people jobless. Here's what we learned today. 651,000 jobs were cut just last month. That's just the space of 28 days. That's a rate of roughly 15 jobs a minute. Unemployment is now at 8.1%. That's the worst since 1983. President is doing what he has to, reassuring Americans that help is in the pipeline. That's where we begin tonight at the White House with our chief White House correspondent, Chuck Todd. Chuck, good evening.
Good evening, Brian. Well, every day brings a statistic that seems to underscore the depth of this economic crisis. And the president today used the bad news as an opportunity to sell why his stimulus plan is the way to fix things.
In Charlotte, North Carolina, unemployed workers lined up looking for what's becoming an elusive thing all over the country, a full-time job. The numbers are staggering. 4.4 million jobs lost since the recession began in December 2007, more than half since November. Add in discouraged job seekers and workers forced to part-time, and that 8.1% number rises to 14.8%. Another benchmark, 31.8 million Americans applied for food stamps last month, an all-time record. The February job losses amounted to thousands upon thousands across the board. Business services, factories, construction, temporary workers, and retailers. One of the few bright spots, more government jobs. And it was the reason President Obama traveled to Columbus, Ohio, where he showcased the hiring of new police officers to persuade skeptics that his stimulus plan is good economic policy.
I look at these young men and women, I look into their eyes, and I see their badges today, and I know that we did the right thing.
For these 25 new police officers here in Columbus, Ohio, the president's stimulus plan didn't create these jobs. It saved them. Without the money, these folks would be looking for a new line of work.
I would like to thank President Obama for attending and for the ability to graduate this class.
Before the $1.25 million in stimulus arrived, Columbus only had enough money to train these officers, not hire them.
It was a stressful time. I figured they'd call us back, but I didn't think it would be so soon.
25 jobs may pale in comparison to 651,000 lost in February. But this was a chance for the president to showcase how he hopes the stimulus will work in a state that's been hit especially hard.
And there's still so much work to be done throughout Ohio to lay a new foundation for growth and prosperity.
Now, Brian, the other big economic challenge this White House is dealing with, of course, has to do with the auto industry. His two top economic aides, Treasury Secretary Timothy Geithner and Larry Summers, held the first cabinet-level meeting of that auto task force. On Monday, some of those members of that task force are traveling to Detroit, get a first-hand look at how GM and Chrysler are trying to figure out how to restructure their operations. A couple of key deadlines. GM says it needs more money from the government by March 16th, and that's sooner than that March 31 deadline to actually restructure the government. Brian.
All right, Chuck Todd at the White House starting us off on a Friday night. Chuck, thanks. Buried in these awful jobs numbers are a few trends. For example, one of them, job losses are hitting men harder than women. That's creating a whole new dynamic of its own in the workplace and at home. From Dayton, Ohio tonight, NBC's Mara Schiavocampo reports on how the story is hitting home.
Debbie Butner has been hit hard by recession job cuts. While she's still working, her husband is not.
No job, so he's at home.
I've applied for anything from working on a trash truck to assembly warehouse. I've always been told that, you're the breadwinner of the family. So when you've got to sit and watch your wife get up, go to work every morning, and you're beating the bushes every day to try to find a job and can't find one. Right now, there's just nothing out there.
This is the first time he's ever been out of work. At times, he gets depressed, and he feels like maybe he's failed somehow, that he's not able to provide the way he wants to.
In this recession, 78% of job cuts have affected men who tend to work in areas like construction and manufacturing, whereas women tend to work in more stable areas like education and healthcare. Because of that imbalance, women are poised to surpass men in the workforce for the first time in history.
In 1970, only about 40% of the workforce was women, and now we're poised to hit 50%. Unfortunately, it's not for good reasons.
It's an unfortunate reality, not just for Debbie, but also those around her.
Rick worked for General Motors. They closed the plant December 23rd.
I stayed around to see the last truck run off the line. The last tire that went on the last truck, 3 of us signed our names to the tire. When that first Monday rolled around and the alarm clock went off, that was when it really hit me that, you know, I have no place to go.
It changes your whole life. We're one, and when he hurts, I hurt.
For now, these women and so many like them continue doing what they can to support their families financially.
Yeah, we're in this together. Yeah. We're going to get through it together.
And emotionally. Mara Schiavocampo, NBC News, Dayton, Ohio.